All right, today's Mother's Day. You know, and maybe you have seen the title of my message. Here's what I know about moms. For the most part, I know there are always exceptions. I know that. But for the most part, moms worry about the kids more than dads. Okay, Gabe's still at the house, be heading off to JMU in the fall, but if he goes out, he'll get home, I don't know, he was out last night or the night before, whatever, and he gets home maybe 11, 11:30, what, I don't know. I mean, he usually gets home from work at 10:30. And here's the deal, here's what I know. If he's not home, Carol's not sleeping. Me, I'm out. I'm out. Because that's what moms do. And the load they carry is just like, I guess it's like 10x of what dads carry for the most part. Now, I have my concerns and all that, but moms are just different. And I talked with a guy recently, and there's an issue with one of the kids, and it's even an adult child, and he's like, I think it turned her hair even grayer or whatever. I mean, it's just hard. Kids can be hard. And I think every mom can understand Hannah in the Bible, and we've talked about her for the last few weeks. This is our last message on Hannah. But here's what I know. Every Sunday morning, we come together, and we only get an hour together, an hour, which means like it's already half over. It's already half over. Now that's shorter than a football game, baseball game, or basketball game. I mean, it's short. It's shorter than a round of golf, even if you play 9 holes. And so this week, it just flew by. And most of us probably passed our emotional and physical speed limits at some point. And then you got up this morning and you're kind of still in a fog. Think about that. It's Sunday morning and it's still a fog. And yet, your soul needs nourishment. But you know what? Really, the fog needs to clear first. I mean, have you ever got up like early in the morning and said, I'm going to read my Bible? And you get up and you're like, I got to do this. You just decided you're going to do it. It's early in the morning and you're like, I got to do it. And then you get through that, and about a half hour later, the coffee kicks in maybe. And you're like, well, I don't remember what I read. See, the fog didn't even clear. And I wonder how many times we come in here on Sunday morning and the fog just hasn't cleared. And we sing a few songs and you're like, wow, okay, I kind of missed some of that. And then for the last several days, we've all been in the grips of the culture. And it's influenced us, infiltrated our minds to some extent. And then we have levels of anxiety and dissatisfaction, and the meter's going up, and it's like, it's like your car. It's like up, danger zone, red, whatever. And you know what? You get to the point where you begin to feel like Christianity is irrelevant to your life. In fact, the atheist Julian Barnes, in the opening of his book entitled Nothing to Be Frightened Of, here's what he said. I don't believe in God. He said, but I miss him. That's an atheist speaking. I mean, he even describes Christianity as the greatest story ever told. Now, here's the problem. A lot of people believe that all the stories in the Bible are just fiction, great stories, but they're fiction. Oh, no, they're real, historical. And so he misses the relevance of the story. And yet God's story has incredible relevance. The story of Hannah is highly relevant. In fact, okay, so I invited a guy to church, and he had to go to a soccer tournament today in Virginia Beach. So he said, well, let's do lunch. Okay, we'll do lunch, and we'll talk about Jesus. I will. We'll see what's up. All right, so we'll do lunch. But here's what I'll do. I'm trying to invite people to experience Jesus in their everyday life. Not presumptuously, not this field thing like, wow, God help me get through all the red lights today on my way to work. I don't know, I won't be a little careful. I don't want to put God in everything, but at the same time, I don't want to miss the tiny salvations that come my way every week, every month, however they work out. You see, the Christian life begins at salvation, but then throughout your life, God will sprinkle tiny salvations along the way. Now, I think that's pretty cool. And I don't want people to miss that. I believe Jesus is highly relevant every day. And yet, I think when we come in here today, something might be on your mind, could be a leaky faucet, but you know what I know? That doesn't consume your day. It just bothers you every now and then. Maybe you ran out of weed eater string yesterday working on the lawn. Okay, that's a little inconvenience, but it's not consuming you. But often there is something or a few things that are consuming our emotional energy. The problem is a lot of times normal annoyances can add up, but most of those things most people would be happy to deal with outside the bigger things. Some things are excruciating, and some things you feel like you're about to drown if help doesn't come. Even General George Custer was overwhelmed by the number of Indians that he had to face. He had no idea what he was up against. And he and his entire cavalry lost their lives. I mean, history is just full of people who were outnumbered and overwhelmed, never had a chance. And sadly, too many wander through life, and they wonder if there's a chance that they could experience a reversal of fortune. So I want to talk for the next few moments about the God of great reversals. They happen. They have happened throughout history. Perhaps they've happened in your own life. We've seen them happen in ball games. I know not everybody watches the Super Bowl, but I think at this point most people have at least watched a few. And I'll never forget when the New England Patriots were playing the Atlanta Falcons last year, not 2018, but 2017, and they were down 28-3. Now, there were people, for Falcon fans, they thought they were going to win late in the game to be up 28-3. But Tom Brady on the sidelines, you could tell he never gave up. He felt like they could still come back. And they did. And so when the Atlanta Falcons got their Super Bowl rings, guess how they designed it? It has 283 small diamonds in it. Because it was such a great reversal in the history of NFL football. Great reversals happen. Sports, in your own personal lives. And you're thinking, well, that may be fine for them, but what about me? What about me? Me. Which means you need hope, a little bit of encouragement, and thankfully God has sprinkled stories in the Bible that give us just that. He gives us hope, and he throws in some encouragement, and we have the story of Hannah. We have spent the last 3 weeks talking about Hannah. And today we will wrap it up. She was married to a fine man. However, she was unable to have kids. And in that culture, that just didn't go over well. It was very troubling for the wife and the emotional anxiety was about as high as it could get. I mean, that's just the way the culture was. Not only that, he eventually took on a second wife, and they didn't get along well, and you could imagine the problems that caused. But while she had a husband who loved her, she desperately wanted a child. She didn't have access to modern science and the things that you can do today. There was only one thing she could do. One. Can you imagine? You only have one option. One. She could turn to God and pray. That's it. Now, I don't know how that would make you feel if that was your only option, but she did. And today we want to get into her song a little bit, her song of praise, because it's helpful to remember that praise must include serious reflection on God's mysterious ways. Listen, I mean, he protects his people, and he also, you know, the hard part of it, sometimes he brings adversity into our lives just so he can do something special and then get all the glory. Look, God's a mysterious God. It was God who caused her to be barren. And then he blessed her with a child, and then many more. What a mysterious God. But it's a cause for praise. And it was quite some time in persevering. And then, of course, eventually she had a son she named Samuel, whose name means asked of God. Just think. I don't know, you praying for any divine intervention in your own personal life? Oh, I believe God's very much involved. I can't always see it, and I don't always know how. I just know that he's highly involved. You know, but it's interesting. Even social science says things that we don't really buy into. They've tried to convince us that broken homes are just as good for kids as whole ones. All allegedly on the basis of social science research. Now, we don't believe that. But we do believe that God can turn a broken home into a blessed home. We believe that. We believe that God can intervene. God can make a difference. But you see, that sort of cultural thinking is not new. 2 Peter we read, knowing this first of all, that scoffers will come in the last days with scoffing, following their own sinful desires, and they'll say, where's the promise of his coming? They don't believe God's involved in the world. For since the fathers fell asleep, all things continue as they were from the beginning of creation. For they deliberately overlook this fact that the heavens existed long ago, and the earth was formed out of water and through water by the word of God, and that by means of these the world that then was deluged with water and perished. They ignore the worldwide flood because they scoff at it. Nah, God didn't do that. That's just, we can explain all that. You can make things say whatever you want. You can take a rock and say it's this old, and we're supposed to believe it. You have no idea how old that rock is. But science convinces us, or supposedly convinces us, of their own thoughts and all the time. But the bottom line is they don't believe that there's any sign that God ever intervened in the history of the world. Wow. Well, I think it's highly relevant that we talk about God intervening, even in our own lives, the God of great reversals. Boy, there's so much of life you can't control. You know what's funny? You can't even control what you desire. Think about that. Maybe you drive down the road and you go by a Krispy Kreme and the light's on, and all of a sudden you would like to have one of those donuts. You didn't control that, did you? You can't even control your desires. Things happen in life. Spouse leaves. All kinds of things. All kinds of negative circumstances. But here's the deal. Do you and I believe in the God of the Bible? Oh, I'm not talking about the God who doesn't let bad things happen. See, there are people who believe that if God was real, that bad things wouldn't happen. I always thought that was funny because that means you couldn't play sports. Because in sports you have winners and losers, right? You couldn't have sports. You have to get rid of them because everybody has to win. How do you win? How do both teams win? Anything is possible. And it's not the God who fails to answer your request on your timetable. You never have to wait for anything. And it's not the God who is always sentimental. Look, Jesus rebuked his own disciples because they didn't even get some things. It wasn't sentimental. Oh, I understand. You've only been with me a few years. I totally get that. No, he got in their face and chewed them out. No, I'm talking about the God of the Bible, the God who is revealed in the Bible, not in our minds. And then, of course, it's possible to believe in the God of the Bible, but it's also possible that God's just a small part of your life. It may be that he crossed your mind this week once or twice. No, I'm talking about God who is highly involved in your life and who you think about on a regular, constant basis. But I know that your level of belief, it'll show up in your values and your joys and your sorrows and your motivations and your fears and what you love and what you hate. He will. But here's what I know. A lot of people go through life and they've lost confidence in the God of great reversals. I'm sure there were people who turned off their TV sets. There were probably New England fans that turned off their TV sets, only to later learn that there was a great reversal. Well, Hannah believed and she never gave up because she knew God was incomparable. Listen, here's what we got. Here's what she prayed. She said, Lord, my heart exalts in the Lord. My horn is exalted in the Lord. My mouth derides my enemies because I rejoice in your, and here we go, salvation. Here's where she experienced another episode of God's salvation in her life. Encircle the word salvation. That's what God does. He saves you, listen, when you admit your sins, when you repent and believe. But then throughout your life, he likes to constantly drip tiny salvations. So let's just call them tiny salvations. You got saved, but now God sprinkles things in. That's what God does. He saves. That's your conversion you sang. I remember the night I got saved. All these people in my youth group got, Mike, that's so great you got saved. I mean, I was one of the renegades, so to speak, and I was the only one. And then, of course, an unchurched friend of mine that I brought. The other renegades that were part of the youth group, we went to church, but, we just went to church. We were bad news. We were the bad news bears, but I got saved that night, and they were all excited. Psalm 98:1, oh, sing to the Lord a new song. He has done marvelous things. His right hand and his holy arm have worked salvation for him. See, we're expected to praise and proclaim. Psalm 105, give thanks to the Lord. Call upon his name, make known his deeds. You talk about what God's done. Do you talk about his tiny salvations among the people? Sing to him, sing praises. Tell of all his wondrous works. It's amazing how things just work out in life. And here's a story. So last Sunday, Adam came to town. I had no idea. We had no idea, but he couldn't come today for Mother's Day. So he came down last Sunday for Mother's Day. Well, okay, that's cool. He came down. And then later on that afternoon, Austin, his cousin, came out. They were going to shoot guns or whatever. I didn't plan this. But here's what I had planned. Our riding mower went out. Something wrong with the motor. I won't give you the details. All right, so I borrowed a trailer, and I knew that I don't know how I'm going to get it on the trailer. Carol and I would never get it up on the trailer. So I went and got the trailer, and then it dawned on me. I've got Adam and Austin at the house. I called Carol. I got the trailer. Don't let Austin leave. I said, and Adam and they can, and sure enough, so I get the trailer, took them 30 seconds, boom, the mower's up on the trailer. Now, I didn't know that, but God did he not? Now, did God bring Adam to town a week early so that he and Austin could shoot and push it up? You say, well, it's just a coincidence. Fine, have it your way. I'm calling it a tiny salvation, and I'm going to sing a new song, and I'm going to talk about it, and I'm going to tell you. Because I believe that God is involved in my life. Now, does that mean everything works out perfectly? No, God's mysterious. He doesn't. I can't explain things. But every time I have a tiny salvation, I'm just thrilled. I'm thrilled. Okay, so let me give you another quick illustration. So I do a little financial coaching. So I get a phone call from a mom, and out of town, and so she explained. I won't give you all the details, all right, but it involved her daughter, a lot of credit card debt, and all that. So we talked for a while. Quite a while on the phone, probably spent an hour on the phone. Anyway, so we're going through all the finances and everything, and then I talked to her daughter, and so when we got done, it was clear what they should do. And so I said, well, here's what I recommend, and and then they called back, and then she said, well, I talked to my husband. They said, yeah, that's a great idea. But we want you to be the one to tell the daughter and all that. So then they called me. I talked to the daughter. We went through, and because here's the deal, there's a lot of things else going on, but I'm like, you got to put this all behind you and take your next step. So they did, and I thought, one piece of advice changed the amount of emotional energy that she was spending. This was like eating the family alive, the parents and the daughter. Tiny salvation. You could be a prayer away. You could be one event away. And I just want you to know that God is involved in your life. And he is the God of great reversals. And Hannah went from a troubled soul to a transformed soul because God is also transforming. Let's get through here. We can't spend time on the whole text. You can meditate on these things. Let's move on. Let's just kind of go through here quickly. I want you to notice a couple phrases. Kind of go down through there on your nose. You can maybe circle the feeble bind on strength. Later on in the book of Samuel, we're going to read about David and Goliath. David was considered feeble. Everybody laughed at him, scorned at him, thought he didn't have a chance. Everybody, his brothers, Saul, Goliath, everybody laughed at him, scorned. I mean, he was. And look, I don't know here's what I know. I don't know what the odds were that day in Vegas. I have no idea. But if you had placed $5 on David, you'd have probably come out a wealthy man because the odds were that high. I don't know. That's what God does. That was a great reversal that day, a huge reversal. We'll get to that eventually. All right? 1 Samuel 17. But I know that day all the money was on the giant. But see, the feeble bind on strength when God gets involved. And then it says that the barren has borne 7. Now this is poetry. She hasn't had 7 kids yet. She'll have several more, but this is poetry. 7's the number of perfection and completion, and today her life has been transformed, and now her life is full. It feels like it's perfect. Listen, if you could get the one big monkey off your back today, or next week, or next month, your life would feel perfect, wouldn't it? I mean, just the one monkey, whatever that is. The God of great reversals, a reversal of fortune. Wow, but God saves. That's what he does. Samuel would grow up and he would save Israel. And later on, Samuel would anoint David as king, and David would save Israel from her enemies. And then David's a picture of Jesus Christ, who would one day come and save the world from the bondage of sin and death and deliver us. Well, on this particular day, Elkanah and Hannah left church that day, and their hearts were full of joy and great expectation. And they left triumphant because God is triumphant. You see, Hannah's song was born out of pain. Pain. Now, pain is one of those things that none of us relish. And nobody wakes up saying, I hope I have a painful day today so I can sing when it's gone. Nobody does that. And when you're going through bitter times, like Hannah, let's not forget, it was at least 5 years. The emotional turmoil was so great. She had no idea that one day she would sing about her pain. And when you're going through bitter pain, it's hard to believe that one day you're going to sing about it. But you know, it's like once you get through it, you're able to go back and put all the pieces together, and you have a whole new perspective. And when the picture is done, you're full of gratitude, and it flows from your soul like it flowed from Hannah. And you will sing like the old hymn, "It's well with my soul." It too was born out of pain. The well-known lawyer in Chicago, Horatio Spafford, close friend of D.L. Moody's, knew he was speaking in England. So he told his family, hey, let's go take a vacation and let's hop on a boat and go to England and we'll spend some time with D.L. Moody and listen to him preach. Well, he had some business to take care of, so he took his wife and his 4 daughters and put them on the ship. And he said, I won't be far behind. Little did he know that on that voyage across the Atlantic, that the ship his family was on would collide with another vessel. And over 200 people would lose their lives, including his 4 daughters. His wife survived. Spafford got the news and hurried to see his wife, so he gets on a boat. Going across the ocean waters, the pilot of the ship lets him know that this is where the accident occurred and where his daughters lost their lives. And there he began to pen the song, "It is well with my soul." And here's some of the words, and if I could sing it, I would. When peace like a river attendeth my way, when sorrows like sea billows roll, whatever my lot, thou hast taught me to say, it is well with my soul. And God took Spafford's incredible, painful experience, turned it into a song that has impacted millions since the mid-1800s. Millions. And he went on to have another daughter and a son. Everybody needs strength, and he got strength that day to write that song. I don't know how you survive that outside God. I just don't. Hannah wrote in verse 12, she sang, the adversaries of the Lord shall be broken to pieces. Against them he'll thunder in heaven. The Lord will judge the ends of the earth, and He will give strength. That's what God does. I mean, listen, you go through life, you need help, you need strength, you need guidance. That's what God does. And exalt the horn of His anointed. How many times you need to pray for strength? I mean, when you're losing, you want to win really bad. Play sports, and you know. You get tired of getting further behind. And God hasn't changed. He's incomparable, transforming, and triumphant. And what if? He brought about a great reversal in your life. You know, I said earlier when we started 1 Samuel, I said, listen, this is like your autobiography. I can't imagine that you could go through your entire life and never come to a place where you feel barren. Or where you don't encounter something where you need a great reversal. We were at Piedmont in their graduation, and I'm sitting there and I'm listening to the one student who spoke at the very end. And he talked about how that his 2 years at Piedmont were the most productive in his life or whatever. And all I could do was think about my message, and I think I'm so happy for you, but I hope you're ready for the time when it comes when you're going to need a great reversal. I don't know if you're going to be 30 or 40 or 50 or 60 or 70. I just know it'll come. And you're going to need a reversal of fortune. I know it all starts at salvation, and my life changed the night I committed my life to Christ. And everything changed. My values changed, my attitude changed, my beliefs changed, my habits changed. And Hannah's story changed too. And your story can change. You believe that? I mean, I'm talking, do you really believe your story can change? I mean, do you believe in the God of the Bible? The God of great reversal.